Hello, my name is Father Demetri, and today I'm actually in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I'm here for a day, and I'm still coming to you, and I'm going to be reading from the book of Matthew again, continuing on the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew 5:19 through 20 says, "Whoever therefore breaks one of the least of the commandments, and teaches men so, shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say to you, that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven." So today we're continuing on, and it's very interesting that some of these things are being talked, and I apologize if it's a little bit darker here. But it's very interesting that with everything that's going on, I mean, for the last few months, we've been battling the coronavirus, the pandemic that's attacked the world. And now we're battling and in threat of different people going around and causing violence and causing looting and everything. And I understand they want their voice to be heard. I understand that they want their voice to be known. And I talked about it on my sermon on Sunday in a couple days, that the righteousness that we're looking for and what we are needing to do, it should always reflect about what Jesus wants us to do, what Jesus needs us to do. There's been war for many centuries. I'm of a Greek descent, and the Greeks have been besieged by many people throughout the centuries. There's been many people try to kill us and destroy us. And there's some amazing documentaries. And when it's time to fight, it is time to fight. You have to raise up arms. You have to fight back. You have to be and believe in the cause that you're fighting for. And a lot of times people get misguided on those things. I think a lot of times when the fighting was done way back when, even during World War I, World War II, when the Axis forces were moving across Europe, people had to fight. I mean, there were the men of the villages and everything were all fighting in the war, and the men and the old men, the women, the children, they ended up fighting for what they believed in, and they ended up fighting and pushing back the Germans as long as they could. And they fought for something, and they fought for a freedom. They fought for an independence. And I truly believe that it was a righteous type of fighting. Yes, guerrilla warfare and violence and everything like that. I don't believe that that's something that God ever intended us to do, and God ever intended us to inflict on each other. But because of people's greed, because of sin, and because of evil that's rampant in the world, a lot of times we're pushed up against the wall and we have to fight. We have to fight with a voice sometimes that results in what's happening now. Sometimes people feel like the only choice that they have is to loot, to burn, to cause violence, to cause fear. I don't know. I don't typically agree with this type of action, but I do understand and I do agree with sometimes we have to rise up and we have to fight. But we need to fight in the right way. We need to do the things that we need to do. Jesus, he always talked about the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and he spoke that we needed to exceed the righteousness of them, and that we needed to keep even the least of the commandments. At that time, the commandments, there was over 300 commandments, and Jesus kept every single one of them. We believe that Jesus, when he came, he was a man without sin. He was God, he was man, and he didn't sin, and he fulfilled everything that the law had said. He made it complete. And he paved the way for us. Before, it was hard. It was even harder than it is now, because now we actually have the Holy Spirit that flows within us and gives us that wisdom and that understanding that we all need. And if we listen to that voice, if we listen to that inner voice, if we listen to that small, calm voice, I don't believe that we would be inflicting evil on each other. But the difference is sometimes the voice of the world, the voice of the darkness, the voice of our enemy, that unseen being called Satan and the devil, his voice sometimes is more powerful than the voice of goodness, because we want to listen to his voice. We want to hear what he has to say. And oftentimes we all fall prey to that. I'm not even an exception to that, but it is our choice, it is our desire, it is our wants and our needs that we must make a choice with. If I am being tempted by anything, I have a choice whether I want to step into that sin or not. And we as priests, and we as Christians especially, we need to exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees. Today, perhaps maybe we are the scribes and the Pharisees, the modern day scribes and the Pharisees, and it is our job to actually teach you, and it's our job to actually teach the people what's right and wrong. It's our job to lead, it's our job to show the way. And we need to understand that Jesus came to fulfill, and Jesus showed us the way. If all of us followed what Jesus taught, there would be no war, there would be no evil, there would be no darkness, there would be no hatred. But there's so many people in this world that just don't understand why Christ came. And I think that's where the root of the problem is that we don't take the time to understand what the true meaning of our faith is. Our Christianity lies within love, lies within peace, and lies within actually waging war, but waging war in the right ways and fighting in the right ways. Yes, sometimes we do have to fight. Solomon himself said there's a time for peace and a time for war, a time for love and a time for hate. But we need to actually ask the Holy Spirit to guide us during those times and to teach us when it's right for us to do those things, when it's right for us to say what we need to say. So we need to glorify God, and we need to exceed the righteousness of the people that are even teaching you, because we who teach, we who lead, are definitely flawed in a lot of ways ourselves. But I know for myself, and I can only speak for myself, I try to be the best Jesus I can be. I try to be the best man that I can be, and I'm constantly working towards that goal. And I'm trying my hardest to teach my family and to teach the people that are connected to me. And also, when I do my best, when I come to you with these little 5-minute deals, it's probably gone on to about 6 or 7 now, but I try my best to lead you in what the Holy Spirit's guiding me to say. So it is important for us to teach each other and to teach our children and to teach our community what it really means to be faith-filled and what it means that Christ fulfilled the law. Because it isn't really that impossible to be sinless. It's pushing out the voice of darkness that is really hard. And once we learn how to do that, once we learn how to fill our minds and our hearts and bring the framework of the peace of the church into our lives, into the world, that we can start to shine. And again, I again bring to mind, and I again call to mind, the light of the world needs to shine brighter than the darkness. The light of the world needs to shine brighter than anything else. The darkness is dull. The darkness doesn't shine. The darkness doesn't show and doesn't give any pathway. You always stumble and fall when you're darkness. But when you have light, and when you exhibit light, and when you exude light, and when you shine out, you can guide people to where they need to be. So I hope that this has brought a little bit of something to your life, and I pray that you will be blessed and that we can always glorify the Lord always. May the Lord be with you and protect you, keep you safe always, and have courage and trust in the Lord.